He said, when you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful.
Was that a dream? Darn him.
Hi, I'm Ubong Matthew, founder of An Hour with a Manager. This platform was created to solve a real challenge we saw across African professional spaces, which is the gap between ambition and structured leadership. Because a better manager will build a better Africa, and the world needs both. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of An Hour with a Manager podcast with your host, Ubong Matthew. And today's conversation is going to be centered on the citizens. We're actually looking at how to integrate the citizens into this conversation, into the public sector, into the private sector. But most importantly, what really makes this conversation very impactful is we'll be joined the experience from Dr. Salau, who has had significant experience working across the public sector with the government, including her experience in STEM education. And we're very sure that at the end of this discussion, we'll see how to integrate proper public-private partnerships, citizens' engagement, and for the wider country itself and for the continent itself. Welcome today, Doctor. How are you doing? And it's good to have you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure. The pleasure is all mine. It's Dr. Salau.
Salau.
Yes.
Dr. Salau.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I see you looking very good today for this conversation. Please, can you tell us how it's been and where your whole background, and just for the benefit of our visitors outside of Nigeria, to get to connect with you.
Of course, I am on LinkedIn, Adetola Salau. I am on X. I believe I'm Adetola Salau on X. I'm also on Instagram. I think I'm Adetola Salau or Adetola Salau also on Instagram. So I am on all these different platforms. X, LinkedIn, Instagram, and of course Facebook. On Facebook, I'm Dr. Tola Salau. It will be a pleasure to connect with all of our viewers from across the globe. I also have family across the globe, so it'll be wonderful.
All right, thank you very much, Doctor, for that brief insight. And so, not to really take much of our time on this, right? As you've mentioned, the conversation is about citizens governance. I'm also a citizen. She's also a citizen.
Yes, I am.
But we are coming together, right, to see how to have this balance, right? So, for the benefit of this conversation, right, what do you understand by the topic itself? How can you share to our audience, right, the conversation about citizens governance when it first came to you?
Well, when I think of governance,
yes,
I think of an interaction, conversations, engagements between the public sector, the people who are called to serve, the people who are elected or appointed to serve as representatives of everybody else. And then I think of the people who are in the private, people who are running businesses, whether they're small businesses or are working in those small businesses. I think of them. And I think of them as the private sector and as citizens who are now engaging and want to engage with the people who they have asked to serve in their place as representatives. So it's a back and forth conversation. That's the way I tend to view it, as a back and forth conversation. And that's why I use that word engagement, because it is non-stop. It should be continuous. It should be, what's the one that I love whenever I'm speaking about grammar? Present continuous. It should be ongoing, over and over and over. So yeah, that's the way I look at it. Governance, an engagement, conversation between citizens, the people who they elect and appoint in various cases in the public sector.
Okay. So, when we talk about the whole strategy, the whole process of this conversation, because it's like a dialogue where
conversation,
the public sector
yes,
come together to sit down. We're not just having this conversation, but moving to the next steps, which is the implementation of this strategy.
Oh yeah, execution.
So, what are some of these strategies you think that will really benefit into the real needs of the citizens that we're actually looking at, that we've seen so far in the government space or in the public sector?
One thing that I've really come to appreciate greatly in the last 5 to 10 years is people owning up to their agency, their ability to reach out to people who they've elected and appointed to these various offices through social media. They come directly to your, as we say in social media parlance, they come directly to your DM and they come to say, I don't like this or that. Or they come directly on the page itself and comment and tell you, I don't like this happened, that happened. I actually like that direct dialogue. And I encourage it on all my various. Yes, it makes you go back and think. For example, I was just about to say that when I was with Kwara State, you're talking about the extensive experience I've had. Let me just briefly say that I was with Lagos State before, Kwara State. Now I'm working at the Federal Ministry of Education with the Honorable Minister of Education. And one thing when I was working in Kwara State was I liked having dialogue with people coming to X or Instagram, sending me messages directly, or even posting on the page direct. I remember I went to speak somewhere and somebody decided to, it was a real long paragraphs telling me about the decline of libraries and how he wasn't happy. And this is something that is very dear to my heart too, because I remember as a young lady, girl, and then became a young woman, going to the libraries where my parents were lecturers at the University of Port Harcourt, and doing research, utilizing those libraries. So he actually hit a nerve when he was talking about the libraries, and I started having a dialogue with him. And because of that conversation we had, I was able to reach out to an organization in Kwara State that were actually doing some things around the library and also a museum there. And I remember I actually went to go visit them. If I remember correctly, yes, I believe I went to go visit them. Either I visited them or they came to visit me in my office when I was in Kwara State. And we were talking about what are the areas of collaboration, what are the things we could do. You see, somebody having that conversation with me directly on my page led to that interaction, led to that engagement.
Yeah.
So I still encourage people to come to our pages and directly interact with us. It shouldn't just be you saying, I don't like this. Also, criticize, which is wonderful because you are asking for accountability and transparency, but also offer suggestions, offer recommendations. If you were in my place, what would you do? What would you think about? What advice would you have for us? Like I said, it should be an engagement. And like you said, the word you use was dialogue. So I love that. So, yeah.
Okay, so these days, right? There's social media everywhere, and it's very very active. What's up with the whole AI thing here? But when you mentioned coming into the comment box to engage in conversations, there's lots of comments. There's lots of people who just come to say a lot of things, right? Is there a streamlined process where this what do you call it, where each parastatal should actually go through, to be able to decipher reasonable conversations that's taken place, so that if a strategy is being shared in the comments, they can as well oversee this thing to implementation, probably, or because Dr. Salau raised this conversation, it means we can work with Dr. Salau to ensure we see the implementation of this process, because you are like the mastermind in this. So it means we need your insights in this. Is there a process like that for that kind of accountability if citizens come on board to share this kind of experience in those spaces?
Well, I can speak for us. When I was working in Lagos State at the Ministry of Education there, and I can also speak for here where I am now in the Federal Ministry of Education with the Honorable Minister. I've had leaders who were very hands-on. The Commissioner of Education at that time was very, very hands-on, and she directly liked to address when people will send messages or post things and say, okay, how do we handle this? What do we do? How do we bring these people for a dialogue to the office so we can talk to them? She did that. The minister is also in the habit of also saying, how can we go back to the public space and have a conversation about this? How can we issue a press statement about this? So he's very hands-on too. So having people who understand that and also create, because that's what you're saying, create channels for how do we address these kind of issues. Like, okay, this section should address this other section should address it. It's very key. So it all comes down to, I'm sure you are leading to this very soon anyway. It all comes down to the leaders and the leadership and the kind of structures and systems that they put in place. I know I'm preempting you, but that's what it comes down to. So yes.
No, I don't mind, because the thing, one thing is this: it's like in business or even in education itself. It's one thing to plan, to think, to spend your time, create strategies, say, okay, this should work, right? And then you put this thing out there. You don't see it to implementation. It's as good as waste, right? And that's not the kind of result you actually want to see for yourself, right? Because you don't want to spend that time, that long hours. Probably would have used it for something else,
Yeah, instead of the other one.
instead of the other one. So I still feel, so at this present age, right? In your own view, what do you think could be a way out for things like that, for it to be very simplified for not just the government, but others can also adopt?
I'm going to sound like a broken record, but it's okay. Still comes down to being able to put down structures, systems in place. For example, I'm just giving an example. I'm not saying this is what happens with us. Please, I don't want anybody to quote me and say that's what happens with us. But I'm just giving an example. For example, let's say something was said about a policy that was put out there.
Yes.
Now, if it had to do with my office, okay, I can address my own office directly now. If it had to do with my own office, I have people who are handling the social media, and I have an assistant who is also reviewing messages that come in from people saying they want to have a meeting with me. We will all have a brief meeting amongst ourselves, maybe 5-10 minutes, impromptu, or go back and forth chatting that how do we want to handle this, how do we want to address this, and then of course go back, piggyback, because I cannot independently also make some statements, particularly about policy, without also making sure that I have the viewpoints reflected of my principal, which is the honorable minister. So go back, get where is it coming from, how does he want us to phrase this out in the public space, then come back and say, okay, this is what we're going to put out there for everybody to hear about this is what we want to do, this is what we want to do. And then we'll do that. So do you see that there's a structure, there's a system? I get this feedback, I meet with my people, we discuss about it, I put it together and say, okay, let me go back to the person who I'm serving. How should we address this? What are your viewpoints around this? How should I couch this together? Also speak to the other members of my team who have also been working with him in crafting out statements that go out to the public space and also get their own point of view. How should I put this together? Then come back and say, okay, let's go put this out. So it's not just an impulsive action. There's a process, there's protocol. So that's the way we've been doing it. And that's the way I'm sure leadership that is very hands-on and wants to be engaged will also set up a system and structure like that. And let's do this and let's do it like this, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that it's not just you say this and then we have to now come back and retract it and now say it again. So yeah.
Okay. I think I'm just going to point this specifically to the educational sector, which you are really part of, right? Mm-hmm. So I want us to really get back to the guys in the marginalized area, the guys in the rural areas.
Of course, they're important.
Right? Because most times you get to realize that business owners, governments, and some other parastatals probably might have to skip the entry phase into the professionals, into the executives and the rest, with the hope that this is where these things may actually work. But from the educational sector, we understand that, let's take for instance, like in Nigeria, you get to realize that students or people or graduates get to come out of the market not ready about even what is going on in the system. Right? They don't even know what the market is. Compared to 5 years ago, today I'm thinking through myself, like, you can't even imagine what it's like just when if you're only focused on just schooling and then you're done and then you have to come into the market, you don't even know how it's like, because there's AI that can actually do your entry level job. So what are you supposed to do? So what are some of these thoughts or some of these conversations you can also share in your own view with regards to education, right, to also help these public institutions who might not probably have access to these kind of valid informations and data, right, so that as they come out of this space, they can as well, get on board into the labor market properly, and it can also benefit them.
You can never predict what's going to come out in the next 5, 10, 20 years. But what you can do is future-proof the mindsets and the thinking and the skills of the people who are going to be coming out. That is very, very key. And I'm saying this as someone who has walked this talk for quite a number of years and grew up raised by people who also walked this talk for a number of years. I like stories, so I'm going to tell stories, okay? So, I already alluded to it, I think. Yes, I think I alluded to the fact that my parents were lecturers.
Yes.
Because I mentioned that the University of Port Harcourt. So my parents were lecturers. I grew up, as we like to say in Nigerian parlance, a fickle, somebody who likes books, and I still do. I love books. And my mother was a visionary. I say was because she's gone with us now. May her soul rest in peace. And she always liked to plan and prepare for the next best thing, and always was 2 steps, 5 steps to what was coming next. And I said I like telling stories. So one story I like to share a lot about was when I was in junior secondary. Anybody who has done junior secondary education here in this part of the world knows that you take an exam and then you have like a whole month after that. Your classmates, everybody else, they're still preparing for their own end of term exams, but you are already done with your own exam. So you're free. And then after that, you have, of course, a long vacation.
Yeah.
So my mother did not believe in that 1 month you're off. And then, of course, that long vacation. She's like, no, you're going to be busy. You're going to do something.
Keeps you at
So,
sea.
yes, you're going to use your brain. You're not just going to sit at home, go hang out with your friends, just eat. No. So she sat down and thought about what skill is it that would be very, very useful and relevant to you. And there were 2 skills that she sat down and she thought about. One of them was sewing. And let me tell you, she was right. Think about it. Look at it, we're all wearing clothes. Being able to put together your own clothes is a valuable skill. It's something that you don't always have to wait for somebody. And imagine you have a sewing machine and say, look, I want to knock out a simple outfit that I can wear on Friday. That skill is priceless. So she said, either go learn how to sew or go learn how to type. Now, people will be wondering, why that typing? Why did she say typing? She said typing because when she was going to school in the United States, decades before that, all of her work, her research, her project and everything, she had to type it. She typed her work, and she knew how much time it consumed, her typing out her work, because she was not a fast typist. She knew how much time it consumed. She did not want me to fall into that trap too. And then she even went beyond that. She had looked at the keyboard. Oh, here it is. She had looked at the keyboard for the typewriter. The keyboard for the typewriter, the base, is the same keyboard for the computers that we're all using now for the computers.
Yeah.
And she had already seen that the computers were going to be a mainstay. See why I said she was a visionary? She already saw that. So she knew that that typing skill that that hounded me when I was in my undergrad and my grad school, that made it difficult for me to turn out my research paper, my project papers, is still going to be a valuable skill, because guess what? That typewriter is still the basis for this new technology that's coming out, which is the computer. So if you're able to type, same keyboard, if you're able to type, that means you're already ahead of the curve. So she said, you're going to go to typing school. And let me tell you, I was not pleased. I was a 13-year-old, already planning how I was going to hang out with my friends. I was going to have we used to call it that time, I was going to have the bomb time with my friends. We're going to eat, chill. This lady is telling me that I'm going to go learn how to type. And let me tell you, then it wasn't even like now. Now at least it's even bougie, where you have all these nice type keyboards, and you have this nice screen. Then it was that really, really clunky typewriter. So I will go with the ladies who were teaching me. We'll get the typewriters. You carry it on your head. You come to the school, you drop it down, and you're chopping away at those clunky typewriters. And then at the end of the day, you now finish, you carry that typewriter back on your head, and you go back to the place. I was not happy. And I knew my friends seeing me, they were like, and I was like, oh my God. So I think it was the first week or week and a half, instead of going to the typing class, I just went to go hide in the mall. They were selling, there was a, supermarket. And in the supermarket, they had an aisle where they were selling books. And remember, I said, I love books. So I would just go to the supermarket, I'll go to the aisle where books were, and I'll get one of those, their seats there, and I'll just pick up a book. I'll be skimming through the books and reading. Sometimes I actually be reading the books. And I didn't know that they had watched me, the ladies in the typing school. their watch and realized that I was always going to the supermarket instead of coming to them. So I think it was at the end of either a week or that week and a half, my mom came to come and check my progress. And she came to the school and she said, "Oh, how's my daughter doing? We don't see your daughter. She doesn't come." My mother is like, "You're kidding me, right? No, she doesn't come. We don't even see her. She doesn't even come to come and greet us." My mother said, "Hey, have you seen her?" They said, "Actually, yes, we know where she is." My mother said, "Ah, okay, come and show me." Now, remember, this is not the days where somebody can send you a text message or a WhatsApp message or people call you. This is like almost 3 decades ago. Actually, not almost, definitely 3 decades ago. Because I'm just calculating time-wise now, over 3 decades ago. So my mom comes there and ambushes me in the supermarket. Oh my God, I'm just remembering now, very vividly. And I'm sitting there, so I never saw her coming. And my mom was a typical Yoruba mother. Typical Yoruba mother, they don't play. As in anything that's around them, pow. So my mom is like, "What are you doing here? I paid for this class, and you're supposed to be learning it." And she drags me back to the typing school. And I'm giving all of them this evil eye, and they're all looking away like, "What's my own now? It's you and your mom." And I'm not happy. But my mom said, "You know what? From now on, every day I want to report about how you're coming here and what you're doing." And that was how I was committed to sitting down at that typewriter for 1 whole month. And I remember thinking that, who sent me? Who sent me? But anyway, let's fast forward. So I became a fast typist because of that. In fact, I ended up doing more than 1 month. My mom forced me. My mom forced me to finish out, and I think she ended up committing to, I think it was a month and a half or 2 months. So I had to finish it out. And when I finished it out, this was, let me date myself, it's okay. This was 1990. So I finished it out 3 years later when I was now doing, what's the name of the other big one that we all do? WAEC. When I was now doing WAEC. When I finished that, she came back again. "You know, we don't sit at home. You have to go and learn something." I'm like, "Oh Lord, I've already heard this before." And me and my friends were already planned again how we're going to go and visit each other, do all these things. And she's like, "No, you're not." In fact, she said, "You know what? You and your friends will go." So she goes to go sign me up. Then they were calling them computer appreciation classes, where you will learn how to use the computer, turn it on, how do you format it, how do you do this, da da da. Then also start using some of the programs. Then the programs were not Word now. Lotus was the one they were using. That was for spreadsheets. WordPerfect was the one for Word, that this Microsoft Word you're using now. And then I'm forgetting there's one other one. There were 3 of them. So she signed me up. She signed up my friend. She signed up, I think, my younger brother too, my younger brother's friend. Now remember, this is not just 1 or 2 children she signed up. I think she signed up about 5 or 6 children. She paid for everybody and committed us that we're going.
Shout out to mom.
During the, oh no, that my mother was born then. And that we're going Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. During the holidays, we're going for those classes. And my mother is the kind of person that they knew that they had to go and be giving her updates and reports. So we had to go. I remember she paid me. It's not like she paid after, she paid up front. So we were going for those classes. Now, remember what I had learned before. The keyboard. When I was in those classes, whenever they would give us assignments, I was always first in finishing every assignment. And they would look and say, and I'll say, it's not my fault now. I don't even, in fact, it's so bad. Even now, when I'm talking to people, I can say, "Hi now, how are you doing now? What's going on?" And I'm typing and I'm doing my work, and they're always amazed. I said, "Of course. I know my basics, ASDF, column LKJ, blah, blah, blah. I know my basics for my keyboard. So even if I'm talking to you, I'm looking here, I know
where you're punching to. Muscle memory.
Yes, it's there. It's there, and I'm doing it. So by the time I went to university a year later, when we relocated to the United States, and I went to university, even in the US, I was still ahead of my classmates because I had this down. So whenever they would give me assignments or reports, for example, let's say they gave me reports on this paper, and they said, "Salau, okay, type your summary of chapter 1. All I have to do is just put this here, and okay, so I'm going to summarize this. Then I'll just say, okay, I want to summarize this first chapter. I'll type it out. Then I can now start typing out what's my summary. Because She made sure I had that basics. So I'm coming somewhere with this whole story. Now, what did my mom do? My mom future-proofed me. That's what she did. She didn't wait to see what was coming. She just looked around her and said, what is a necessary skill that I believe that this child will help this
It's
child
very
and
necessary.
aid this child?
Yeah.
It's not that she was saying, I want you to have the best job. She just said, what skill will enhance and make life easy for you and also help you with other things? You see, this was one of them, being able to type and write fast. Another one was she was also foreseeing that these computers were going to become very important. Hence, we were taking those computer appreciation courses. And then she also encouraged me to be friends because I said I wanted to become an engineer. The lady who was teaching us a lot of those courses was an engineer. So she encouraged me. She said, look, be friends with that lady. She'll be like your mentor. She'll teach you. She'll talk to you. She'll tell you what are the things she's gone through.
Okay.
And she was right. So I'm just saying all this to say, yes, we as government have a big part to play in this about making sure that what are the kind of skills we start making sure that our students, and I'm coming to that because we are doing things around that. What are the skills that we make sure that our youth have in the classroom, beyond the classroom? That is key. But I want us to understand that in the private side too, parents, teachers, they also have a responsibility.
Yeah.
And us as a community, we also have a part to play in this. All of us have a part to play. Like this AI thing, did it really surprise me? No, it didn't surprise me. Because I have seen that there have been so many advances in the computing, particularly, we've not even seen anything yet. I really believe in the next 5-10 years, our brains, we're going to be totally blown away at how much advancements there are going to be. A lot of those things that we
who could believe we would go to space
the,
today?
the one that this space you're going too far. When I was growing up, I mean, I'm aging myself again, but that's fine. I don't care. When I was growing up, when we used to watch 007, James Bond, you go watch all those movies, and they will have all those nice high tech, a driverless car. Remember that? It's reality now. They are thinking all over the place of the driverless cars. Don't you see them?
Of course.
It's reality now. But remember,
even like for logistics too.
Yes. Remember in the 007 movies, it was a big deal. When those things would show, oh my God, like, you know. Another one that was such a big deal was whenever they have those movies, you see them touching the screen. I'm talking about, I'm just giving an example. Remember 007, Moscow was always the enemy. In Moscow, they are launching the satellites, they were touching the screen. Are we not doing that now? You see us in front of those beautiful touch screens. Even though in the house, some of our TVs are touch screen TVs too. You're touching it and you're moving things. My laptop is a touch screen screen too. I'm touching it, I'm moving things, I'm bringing it smaller, making it larger. Those are the things that we saw in those movies that time.
Okay.
So I'm just saying that what seemed unreal is real to us now.
Yeah.
So you can imagine the things that are coming up very soon, very, very soon. So we all need to start doing that. And the way we start doing that is to take cognizance around us. What are the kind of things? And then beyond that, there are some things that even we don't need to also go too far thinking about. One of the things that we should think about, and I indirectly was alluding to it earlier, was mindset.
Okay.
Being able to look around you and say, okay, I see this challenge that is around me. How do I prefer solutions to this challenge around me? For example, one of the ones that is a very big one to us right now, as we're speaking now, is power in our country here.
Power and internet.
Yes, power, being able to generate power.
Yeah.
How can I solve that? What are the things that I can do? What kind of technologies? What kind of mindset? What kind of, yes. So these are kind of things that we can start encouraging these youth to start thinking about in the classroom, start designing solutions, and start also putting money towards for them to start creating solutions. Sorry, I can go on and on talking about this. I'm sure you can see I'm very passionate about this.
I really appreciate you sharing in depth about that, because majorly, right, the whole conversation is not only to have this, have the guys at the far down side of the economy, not being able to benefit from this, but in as much as you're coming out of the school, we should also have that first-hand information, just like the time when you always have I think the 4th year where you have where they'll give you this COS, they call it, right? That period should be real learning. Some COS you don't actually go there to learn something that's going to help you move forward. You're learning something that has been done 10 years ago. Take for instance, instead of you to go learn how to use what they call it, technology to run your drone, you're learning how to use a hoe. When someone is already advanced in terms of that, so I think this is the reason why we're having this conversation. And and you really struck it on the point. Okay, so like we've heard the conversation, also touching points to the youth in the institutions, which I think the examples you actually shared really, really made a whole lot of sense. Joined from your late mom, and which is very, very personal. And trust me, I can say for a fact that, well, African parents, maybe I would say African moms are one. But shout out to all of them for all they do, and also happy International Women's Day, which is still the month.
Still this month.
Right. So I just want us to draw a little insight from your own perspective, right, in terms of frameworks that can be implementable, right, to make this process. You've mentioned that there's systems and structures, right. So just drawing from this MIT kind of frameworks that the government can actually put to place, either the public sector or the private sector, for this sustainability process to work.
Okay, I can personally talk about a lot of things that we're actually doing at the ministry right now.
Well, let's see one.
One that I'm very proud of that we're doing right now is a lot of training around TVET, and TVET are vocational skills for our youth. There are a lot of programs that we're pushing out in regards to that. In fact, in the next week or 2 weeks, you're going to be seeing quite a lot of things online, blogs, about the minister talking about the work that we've been doing for TVET, boosting the skills of our youth, programs that are taking place at various centers for our youth across the nation. So you're going to be hearing a lot about that. This has been going on since last year, before I joined them formally. And it's something that I've always been speaking about, even when I was in Lagos State and Kwara State. So I'm very happy that the minister himself also saw it as something that's very big. Because if you look, when you and I were speaking off camera, off camera, off mic, we were talking about Germany. And Germany is a nation that when I was in the private sector, because I'm an engineer and I worked in the oil and gas sector, I went to Germany twice professionally for my work because I was a plant safety manager, health and safety manager. And I went to Germany and I engaged with the youth over there because we were looking for best practices that they had. We were trying to set up a gas plant in Delta State. And this was going to be a joint venture between public and private too. And when we went to Germany, we were looking and interviewing a lot of those stakeholders. One thing that was very big for me, because from my engineering background, my parents being lecturers, I wanted to speak to the people who are actually manning those stations. What were their experiences? What kind of backgrounds did they come from? What kind of skills did they have? How could I translate that to people in my own country? What were the things we're going to do to the youth in my own country so that they can be able to run and man those kind of stations? And so when I started asking questions to those young people, I found that a lot of them did not even have university degrees. They had polytechnic degrees, or they just had, in those spaces, they just had qualifications as plumbers or technicians, and they were certified, and then they went on to get fantastic jobs. They were able to take care of themselves. They were taking care of themselves, their families, supporting their communities. And I said, I want my own youth to be able to do things like this in Nigeria. So I'm very happy that we have programs like this now in Nigeria, this TVET program that we have. And like you said one, and I'm mentioning that one, that it's something that we are expanding, and we're really going to be layering more and more things on top of. Because if you really look at it, the growth of any nation is it being able to solve its own challenges, its own problems internally. And us outsourcing to other places to come solve our plumbing problems, our construction problems, it's not sustainable. And you mentioned the word sustainable. It's not sustainable, and it doesn't make sense. We should be doing this in-house. We should be equipping our youth with these kind of skills, and then being able to solve our own challenges. In fact, a lot of the things that we had mentioned, I mentioned power generation. If we have this youth being able to solve things at first principle, at the very basics, you'll find out that they will use those skills, vocational skills, to be able to bring it down and say, you know what, how can I fashion this to this, and how can I create this? And you'll be amazed at the kind of solutions they'll come up with. So I'm very, very proud of this work that we're doing, and I'm very proud of where it's going to go to in the next 4 years, 10 years, 20 years, the kind of people we're going to produce from it. I'm really, really proud.
So how long is this training going to last for?
The training programs are anywhere from 6 months to 12 months. And then, of course, there are some that are also a little bit longer. But the point is not how long the training program are. We are not looking at the important part. What is important is the people who start it, do they finish it?
And what happens after the finish?
And what happens after they finish it, which means are they going to use it to go and create businesses themselves or work with somebody and also make money themselves? That is what is key. It's not how long, but how are we going to be able to utilize that for continuity and then becoming economically viable citizens in our society. That to me is key. That's more important.
Don't you think a structure like you mentioned, I think which you're very familiar and you like to talk about, the system or structure can help that process work perfectly from when
inception to finish.
When they're done.
That's inception to finish.
And post the whole process. Not to just let them.
We're working on that. It is a work in progress. I can say this one very proudly. It's something, even in these places that we mentioned, in Germany, in the US, in Singapore, it is something that you constantly have to keep tweaking, change this. Okay, this didn't work. Let's change this. Let's iterate. How do we go back to the drawing board about this? Okay, let's work on this. Yes, it is a work in progress. Those students that they're not students, sorry. Those young workers that I say I met when I was in Germany, believe me, they didn't just wake up and they became that way. That process, in fact, if I remember correctly, the whole process in Germany, it's been a major work in progress, and they're still iterating, they're still changing, they're still constantly working on it. And it's such a beautiful process, because at the end of it, look at the kind of graduates that come out and look at the kind of things that they do in that society. If you look in Western Europe, yes, in Western Europe, Germany is still one of the most viable economies there. And it's not an accident. Look at the kind of people that they have as part of their workforce, and look at the kind of things that they produce, and what they also, the benefits that they give to their society. Yeah, their cars, oh my God. Is it the engineering? Oh, yes, so.
Okay, so I know we've also shown light on in terms of the government or the public sector in terms of how these things are actually working, right? So from your own view, right, based on the fact that you've been in the private sector before coming to the public sector, so what do you think the private sector should also do to have this active engagement so they are also concerned with the citizens? Take for instance, right, like in Lagos here, right? I own an estate. I shouldn't probably wait for the government to come fix that road if we can actually make a contributive process, to probably fix it. Because it's not only going to benefit me who's there, but it's going to benefit the real estate and property there. So how do you think the private sector?
Yeah, there needs to be one of the things. In fact, I'm very proud about this. One of the things that we're working on in our ministry is to talk about frameworks on how PPP models will work. And PPP is public-private partnerships, how they work, and how these engagements will be win-win for both parties, that is the public and the private. How would they be win-win? For example, what you are mentioning, for me, a win-win will be you own that estate, you want to build that road, then public will say, okay, since you're going to do this, let's give you a tax incentive, or let's also come into a collaboration with you in this. Yes. So these are the kind of frameworks that we're beginning to work on, and I'm hopeful that will be replicated across the system. So yes, oh definitely, those kind of things need to be discussed and need to be expanded and elaborated upon. So yes.
Okay, so while we wrap up this discussion, right, I just want us to leave one word where you just get to share with our listeners, right? So for other institutions, other countries, other regions outside of Nigeria, outside of Africa, right, who are also looking at or thinking towards integrating citizenship into the public-private engagement of the government, what is your own word for those leaders or those governors or government who are actually trying to put this together?
Service. It's very important that you make sure that your citizens are heard, because in the bottom of everything that governance is, the middle of it, actually I shouldn't call it the middle, the foundation of it is service. You're serving people. And in order for you to serve people, you need to hear them. So it's very important to create channels that you're able to hear your citizens, and then also act upon what it is that they tell you, and then be able to have channels where you come and say, look, we've done this, what are your thoughts about this? And they also engage you on this, and then proceed forward. And remember, like we're saying, it is a dialogue. It shouldn't just end there. It should be a back and forth. So service is at the middle of it, and that's the last word that I would like to leave us with. That word, service. So yes.
Thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you.
It's always have you on the podcast.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I can go on and on talking about governance. Thank you.
So if you like this episode of an Hour with the Manager conversation, please like, subscribe, and follow for more of this kind of discussion. If you like this conversation of an Hour with the Manager episode, you also like, subscribe, and follow. And don't forget to follow Dr. Salau. Please say something
About? Oh yes, I'm an author. In fact, it's funny that we mentioned governance. I have written. I should have brought my books.
Let's just talk about the shares.
Okay. I had launched 2 books last year, and one of them is called Bridging Two Worlds, about my own experience with governance and how I went from private sector to being in the public sector, and how my parents, being in public service, because remember, lecturers, they were in the public schools, federal public universities, how my experience watching my parents also shaped me and shaped my own experience going from private to being here, and the why of why I really believe in this work very strongly, and why I also relocated from the United States back to Nigeria and been doing this work, yes. And then the second book that I wrote is a hands-on, I like to call it roadmap, on things that I've seen that to me work with us here in the African context, and things that I've seen that have worked in the Western context that I think we can be able to adapt and tweak to our own context here. So I called that book, or I named that book, Reengineering Education for, Reengineering African Education, because I remember it's RAE, Reengineering African Education, so RAE, yeah. So that's how I was able to remember it. And like I said, it's my roadmap. I taught in the United States, and when I was teaching there, I kept remembering how I wasn't happy as a secondary school student with the way they were teaching me science and particularly mathematics. I wasn't happy. And then when I started teaching in the United States, particularly mathematics, I'm not saying everything that they do there is perfect. Please, I want to make sure I emphasize that. But I did see a lot of things that I liked, and I wanted to see how could I tweak those things that I liked and bring them to the African context for our own youth here. And I spent 5 chapters in that book. It's a red book, it's wonderful, describing all these different experiences that I have and my own ideas around that. And I got quite a number of really, really good reviews from people both in America, Europe. I got somebody in Europe. I believe I also got somebody in Australia writing their reviews about this book. And it's been quite a journey sharing it with different people. In fact, just last week, somebody reviewed it on LinkedIn and shared it. And a lot of people have indicated interest in how they want to get copies of the book. And the teachers, by the way, and that makes me very happy, how they want to get copies of the book and how they want to read and now see how they can also adapt it into their own teaching with the students.
Going back in the bed, jumping on the stage, you know, just a gamble.